We've all been there. You're driving along, your car starts making a funny sound, so you bring it to your mechanic and you try to make the sound that your car makes. Hey, the reality is that your mechanic can help it make it all better. At Eng Automotive, they're ready to help. Take a look.
So we all know the feeling. You go to your car mechanic because there's a sound. It's a clink, it's a clank, it's a clunk. You don't know what it is, but somehow they do. We're here with Eric from Eng Automotive in Chicopee. Eric, how do you do it? How do you know when people come in and they say, oh, there's this smell, there's this sound? How do you know what the problem is?
Well, we're like detectives. It starts off with the customer interview. We try and get the symptom of when it does it, how often it does it, and kind of goes from there, depending on what the complaint is. If it's a noise, we like to know, does it do it on the highway, does it do it around town, going over bumps, and then depending on what they tell us, we take it from there.
And there's a bunch of tests, so you go and you test drive the car first. What can you tell when you test drive?
A lot of things we can tell, especially for us, because a customer may get used to a noise or a clunk or whatever, or a rattle, or vibration, and when we get in the vehicle, we notice it right away. Just when you test drive, we got our ears and eyes open for problems that we may encounter when you step on the brakes, any vibrations or things like that.
And then when people go to a good mechanic, you know it's good, at least one of the reasons, because there's these diagnostic tests. I know you spent tons of money on these diagnostic tests. Mm-hmm. What are some of them that you do on these cars?
Well, if it's a check engine light per se, we have several scan tools. Not one scan tool does every single make. Depending on the vehicle, we use certain scan tools to pull the codes. And then depending on what the code is, it leads us in a direction to diagnose sensors or things like that.
Now going forward, you've done all the diagnostic work, you've fixed the problem, but you don't just have that taillight guarantee. Your parts are a little bit special because you guarantee the parts and the work for a good while.
Yes, everything we do, we back it up with a 3-year, 36,000 mile warranty. We feel that just like when you buy a new car, when you buy a new part, that part should last essentially as long as the warranty on the original part or car. In cars, powertrain is usually 3 years, 36,000 miles. So therefore, we feel the part we put in should last that long.
Now, Eric, you know, it's like when you go to the doctor. You don't necessarily want to fix something when it goes wrong. You want to do what you call preventative maintenance. What's some of the preventative things that you can do to a car so that people don't come in and say, hey, my car had a rattle and a clank? Well,
if you come in for just an oil change, we have an extensive checklist that we go through. We check all the fluids, not only the fluid levels, but the condition of the fluids, belts, hoses. It's like an automatic check, even whenever there's an oil change done. In fact, if you don't come in just for an oil change, we have a first 5 or 6 boxes that we check off on every vehicle, even if it's not an oil change. And that includes belts, hoses, fluid levels, tire pressures, things like that.
So you're really making it so people almost don't have to come back because nothing will go wrong.
Right. Our intention is to not see you again until your next service.
And that service, it's a pretty low rate actually. It's pretty nice. What is it, $29.99?
General oil change is $29.95. Plus tax. And
pretty inexpensive.
Yep, very inexpensive.
Now, speaking of maintenance in the wintertime, I know a lot of people, they have trouble because it's getting colder outside, so cars are going to have a little bit of an issue. What are some tips that you have for us as our cars are getting ready for the fall and the winter?
Getting ready for the winter, things like belts, hoses should be checked, antifreeze, not just the level, but the boiling point or the temperature, the freeze point. The antifreeze over a period of time can get acidic, so it needs to be changed every so often, depending on the manufacturer and the type of antifreeze. Checking that. The batteries are important. As the temperatures decrease, the batteries are less efficient. So if the battery's kind of on, it's not on its way out to begin with on a cold day, a sub-zero day, the car's probably not going to start. So we check that beforehand.
I was going to say, and a lot of people, you know, they say, I think I can do this myself, but I know there's a lot of people out there who might not be able to, might not be car smart. If they bring your car in here and maybe it's fall time, you're going to do a lot of those checks and you might recommend a lot of maintenance because winter's coming.
Correct.
And as always, you need to make sure your tires are looking good too. What are you looking for in tires?
With tires, again, with a general oil change, we check the tire, not only the pressure, but we check the tread depth and the condition, the overall condition, whether it's cracked, dry rotted, or things like that.
Now, Eric, a lot of people out there, you know, they think they can just pick a mechanic out of a book, but you're pretty special. You actually won a very prestigious award. Tell us a little about that.
That was the AC Delco's Technician of the Millennium back in 2002. It's a hands-on competition throughout it started off as, there was a few phases, but the grand prize was the Chevy Avalanche that I have.
If you want your car serviced by the technician of the millennium, and if you want your parts and labor guaranteed for 3 years or 36,000 miles, check out Eng Automotive online at egautomotive.com or right on Granby Road in Chicopee.